Overcoming anxiety, as long as you are you, the separate form, is literally impossible. I'm sorry, it's so connected. It is the character, it is the thing itself, the identification, the story, and as long as this story continues, anxiety will continue. Life is hard anyway, just living your daily life and adding anxiety to this equation is just turning it into some kind of an impossible mission. There is so much suffering, there is so much pain, and in vain, because anxiety is something that is so unreal. And you add to this suffering the self-reproach, and you blame yourself for suffering because it's only an anxiety. You usually are afraid of something that will not happen or might happen, or it's just you don't know why you suffer so much, why you are afraid so much, and so you blame yourself. I'm so stupid, this is not happening. So the thing itself, not only you suffer from the fear itself, from the anxiety, you suffer from blaming yourself and hating yourself for suffering. So you cannot free yourself from anxiety as long as you identify with this separate form. But Simcha was liberated from the character and consequently from anxiety. And up until the moment of self-realization, she did try to cope and manage her anxiety. And the way she did that helped the character evolve. And eventually, it built the character so strongly that she was able to carry the weight of the transition, because the shift itself needs the person to be very balanced, even if it's not perfect for the naked eye, because she still suffered from anxiety in the moment of the transformation, but she knew she could handle it. She knew she is coping with it, so she could cope with anything, because the moment of self-realization, the transition itself, was a moment of some kind of a question: can I do that? Is it not too scary? There is a voice inside, or the ego's voice, the mind's voice, that's saying, what is this thing? I cannot do that. It's too weird, it's too strange, it's too dangerous, and I'm afraid. And only if you are balanced and ready to take on anything, because you practiced so hard in coping with fears while coping with something, then you have built yourself in a way that will allow you to accept this transition. So basically, anxieties has prepared Simcha to the courage she needed in the moment of this great, unbelievable moment, or that she could just quietly and with a lot of confidence do that, trust herself that she can do that she can do anything, because she has coped with herself so deeply and for such a long period of time. Most of her life, Simcha was a hypochondriac. She was afraid of illnesses, diseases, herself, her family's diseases. Everyone is going to die, she is going to die. Any spot on her skin was a terminal condition. She is not going to be here for long. And very soon, very early on, she realized that this is not a real danger, that it's only happening in her mind. But she could not do anything about it, because it didn't matter if the danger was real, if it was a real tiger, or if it is an imaginary dragon. The sensation and what she has experienced as a character was the same. The fear was paralyzing. It was devastating. She was so miserable. She had to continue pretending that everything is fine and talk to people and her family and her clients and pretend that nothing is going on, while inside she was like burning in a terrible fire. Anxiety is like a terrible fire inside you. Nobody can see how much you suffer, how afraid you are, how nothing matters. Life has no point. Why bother just getting out of this bed? Why not putting the covers on you and just rolling into a fetus, you know, just like this? And it doesn't help. Or taking a long shower and trying to wash everything from you, the fear. There is nothing she could do. Simcha didn't cope with her anxiety through prescribed medicine, and it is a way that people do try to face their anxiety and to treat their anxiety through this thing, and she respects that, but this was not her way, maybe because she was too afraid of the doctor to go and take the medicine, or maybe it was just she was just rolling with it and trying to cope with it. The result was she was barehanded against this thing, and this thing was like getting into an arena of boxing, a boxing arena, and getting a knockout every time you go inside this arena. You know that you are going to be defeated. You know that the anxiety is stronger than you, and you know there's nothing you can do about it, and yet it's like you are doomed to get inside this arena. You don't want to get inside. You don't want to fight it. You would rather do literally anything else, but it's like your destiny. It calls you, it grabs you, it traps you, it ties you, and then you cannot do anything right, because when you do things through this anxiety, you do things in a way that is so contaminated by this anxiety. There is no joy in anything. It's like you are using 10-20% of your abilities. Your focus is so somewhere else. It's so somewhere else. And the suffering, the immense suffering, so much suffering. And I know this suffering so well. If you suffer from any kind of anxiety, strong or just minor, my heart goes out to you, and you are so brave. You are so brave coping with it. You are so brave just living this thing. It's a cruel tool of reality to shape the character. It's a cruel, cruel tool. And it seems senseless because it's an inner suffering. It doesn't have any meaning. It's not a real illness. It's just a condition. And sometimes people see anxiety as something light, but people who suffer knows. There's no escaping it. And this is what made the character of Simcha so strong. All this suffering. And I'm sure this is what anxiety is doing to you right now. It is trying to build you. It is trying to make you a better you, yourself, a character, when coping with it. It's not that you have to resolve or solve the anxiety thing, because it will not be solved. Up until the moment of transition, it was not solved to the character. She did continue to suffer from it. It was not this thing that was built, the thing that was created through the suffering of anxiety, is the self-confidence, the self-trust, the ability to continue, the stubbornness to continue, and to try to cope, to give yourself this hope that you will just, maybe next time it will be better, or wow, I did manage to walk through this very hard phase and now I'm feeling a little bit better. All this game, when you play with yourself, the game in which you slowly create a character, a you that is suffering from anxiety and yet continues forward like it doesn't. Because Simcha tried to act as if she's not suffering. She didn't surrender to anxiety, and she lovingly suggests that you do not surrender to anxiety also, because the mere fighting is the victory. The mere battle is the victory. Surrendering means that you give up on yourself, and when you give up on this constant attempt to deal with what is happening, it's like in Alice in Wonderland. You have to run very fast just to stay in the place you are when dealing with anxiety. Just to stay where you are, you have to run very fast. But if you'll stop, you'll just slowly become smaller and smaller and smaller. Your character, you will become smaller. You will become a narrow expression, a scared expression, defeated expression. Who defeated you? You. It's a fight against your higher self, posing as anxiety, trying to make you stronger, like in a gym. You must exercise, you must use all your muscles burn. You cannot carry the weight of the lifts, but you try, you continue, and so the muscle is built. And so this is the way the higher self, the oneness, tries to communicate with the character and build just like a ground on which the character can stand to be able to experience higher things. Because if the character is not balanced, if it lacks self-confidence in herself that she can carry anything, how can she carry this enormous transformation? How can she be ready for it? She cannot. She will be too scared. So in a way, anxieties are the best way for a character to prepare itself to enlightenment, to self-realization. But it is hard. This is because the aspiration, the liberated state, is so unique and so beyond words. You need to be very strong. So not overcoming anxiety, this will not happen. Trusting yourself and continuing to fight, this is the thing to do. Continuing fighting your anxieties, dealing with them, trying your best to do what you need to do in spite of your anxieties. If you have an anxiety from being inside society or with people, the best way to treat it is, of course, to try slowly to be with other people, slowly, never just closing yourself and avoiding people, because this will only take you further inside the character and will not build the necessary structure for the character to believe in itself, that in the moment of truth, she will be able to do this. You must be very gentle with yourself, the things you can do, the things you can't do. Don't force yourself to cope strongly, because it will only backlash, and then it will be more suffering for you because you tried and you failed. So the process must be very gradual and must be very loving and nurturing. It's okay, you tried. Like a loving mother, wow, you tried, well done, maybe next time you will succeed, but as long as you did try. The self-reproach, this blaming is so unhealthy. Simcha tried to use different methods in coping with her anxiety. Humor was one of them, just laughing at herself, at her fears, even though it was not funny in any way or form. She was terrified. Terrified is not a word. The heart was beating. She was just so scared, but she did try to make a joke inside the stage about herself. Another method she tried was something she found on YouTube. Many great things there, many truth. This was a person called Brad Yates. Hi Brad, love you. He did some kind of EFT. It was like tapping on the forehead, and she found that his presence, his words, and the way he was very practical, just saying, let's treat this thing, in 7 minutes you tap on yourself alone in your room, you don't need anyone, nobody sees you, and you do that. And what these videos did for her, that it was like she was floating somewhere in space, terrified, and like a balloon without a string, and then these tapping somehow connected her to the ground, and she returned to the ground, and she could breathe, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes it lasted days, until the last time there were days. She was tapping on herself the entire day. If something triggered her, she could spend the whole day just tapping on herself and cleaning herself. And Brad is a wonderful, wonderful person, and so loving and caring, and he's the way he did that, he's always opened his videos by a very strong sentence that I'm taking full responsibility for my own well-being. And this is also a major key. The only person who can deal with this thing, with anxiety, is you, of course, and you must take responsibility on yourself. And he continues by loving yourself and accepting yourself and respecting yourself in the process. People evolve in different ways, and this state of anxiety is a tool that is used by this oneness to create a better ability of the person to accept higher risks. And Simcha cannot say that it was so it was terrible. It was terrible, and of course my heart goes out to you who suffer, but in the great scheme of things, and if you look at it, it was the right thing for her character to be built through herself, through the coping, the constant, endless struggle. It made her so strong. After self-realization, when the character is liberated, the character is not here, but it stays as a body, as a structure, the path of the anxiety is not erased, because it's still part of the qualities which belong to the character. So the thought, the anxious thought, may arise as something that is not connected to anything, just like a fly or a chair or a thought. An anxiety, it is not an anxiety because anxiety is connected to emotions and the state is without emotion. But the thought may arise if something is wrong with something is painful for Simcha. She may think, okay, this is something dangerous and it is going to kill the character, but there is no fear. So the structure remains, and now she can see how it is working, the way it is operating without suffering from it. She can see the psychological structure that belongs to the character, just like her frankness and her just Israeli nature, just being so direct. Also, this anxiety belongs to the character, belongs the extreme fear. She can now trace it to her childhood and to many things that created this path for her. But it's seen through, just like the character is seen through that, just like reality is seen through. It has no influence whatsoever on anything because there is nothing. So this is total liberation from anxiety, yet the character knows to see it, can identify the pattern in her mind, of course without any emotion attached to it. It's just there like the apparent matter she is surrounded by. Anxiety will not go away, you cannot cure it, you cannot heal from it, and you can only deal with it the best way you can. And the good news are, there is a reason to all this suffering. You are not stupid and just tormenting yourself. It is something that builds you so strongly. It is a very powerful tool for a character. And if you do suffer from anxiety, it is the way of all nothingness to reach out and express itself in a way that will force you to grow, force you very, very impatiently and hard. You will evolve. You cannot ignore this suffering. You will have to deal with it. So deal with it. It's okay. There is a reason behind all this suffering. It's not happening in vain. You are not just tormenting yourself. This is happening so you can be stronger, so you can accept yourself and know how to balance yourself, so you can be ready for what this thing is preparing you for your entire life. The entire existence, experience tries to connect you to what you are, and you have to be ready to be connected. You have to be prepared and ready, just like you're going on somewhere and you took everything you need. You are prepared. You need to be prepared. So this is a way for this or nothingness to prepare you to carry this thing that needs a lot of courage. And you need a courage. You need your courage to deal with anxiety. Find your courage every day. Just deal with it the best way you can. Never stop, because stopping is going backwards. Every small step will keep you just moving and continuing this thing, because the worst thing you can do against anxiety is just to let it win and take over the character. It will take over the character. And it doesn't matter what your state is right now. She can never win. You are always stronger. Every small step you do, the smallest step, the smallest gesture you do against anxiety is defeating it. The mere fight itself is your victory until the final victory. The moment of knowing yourself when you're ready, when you're strong, and you win. We win. We win against this thing, and then you see it as what it always has been, a thing that you should say thank you to. Thank you very much, anxiety. You have brought this character to this great revelation, and if you suffer from anxiety, this is what it is trying to do to you.